bridging the gap, exploring new approaches to research. I want to believe our guest speaker will do justice to this topic, and at the end of the sessions, there will be opportunity for questions and answers. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our first guest speaker for the day. Our first guest speaker is a full professor of Sustainable Human Development in the Department of Construction Management and Quantity Surveying at the University of Johannesburg. Before entering academia, he was involved as quantity surveyor on several infrastructural projects, both in Nigeria and South Africa. He holds a PhD in engineering management and has published over 500 research papers in his area of interest. He has extensive knowledge in practice, research, training, and teaching. He is the Director of Sustainable Human Settlement and Construction Research Center, University of Johannesburg, South Africa. He is also an author of over 10 scholarly research books that were published with Stranger Nature and Sea House Press. He is currently the editor of the Journal of Construction Project Management and Innovation, and has received national and international recognition in his field of research. He's an active postgraduate degree supervisor, both master's and PhD. He has supervised more than 40 masters, more than 60 doctoral students to completion. His academic qualification includes an HND, MTech, and a PhD, including a certificate of good governance at the University of South Africa, that is UNISA. He will be speaking on the theme, bridging the gap, exploring new approaches to research. Clapping our hands together is an engagement. This can be scholars and Aigbavboa. Thank you.
That's themselves. And introduction is by somebody I know. Looks very scary. Thank you very much. I'm sure that in the next few minutes we'll be able to kind of just reason. I know that a lot of people are supposed to be here, but the people that are here, I'm sure we'll be able to just have a little bit of discussion on bridging the gap, and at the same time looking at the approaches to research. I want to actually kind of link into the 21st century. But first of all, I want to say thank you very much to the Nigerian student actually putting this particular event together. I really want to say that I'm always very excited to come around and basically for us to share some things and also to reason. I remember when I came here to study, when I came here to study in 2007, some of the things that we're doing today is very unreal in terms of the terrain and how things have changed. So I really want to kind of really appreciate every one of you that are around doing postgraduate degree and really taking it serious. I want to say that at times when somebody asks me, I was like, Nigeria, like it's well. It's like I'm ashamed to tell somebody in Nigeria. I was telling somebody that I'm not ashamed to tell somebody I'm in Nigeria. These days, when I come in Nigeria, they will tell me you're not in Nigeria, you're in Kenya. I'm like, why do you tell me Kenya, I'm in Nigeria? So that tells you that you can actually be able to change the narrative. Yes, there are a lot of issues. I remember when I was vice dean, I'm going to go into my speech, but I didn't want to share briefly. I remember when I was vice dean for engineering, and one of my major thinking was to make sure that you have the plight of Nigerian students. But at the end of the day, Nigerian students ended up fighting me, and I had to resign from the position. And I'm just really kind of struggled to get years funding and all that. It's a decision that was made that the consideration will not really go to Nigerian students. I really feel bad for it. So just understand this particular dynamics you receive. But why am I saying this is to say you can still be able to bridge the gap through the work that you do and still be able to distinguish yourself. So this afternoon, I really want to appreciate the Peter has been my students and countless members of you that are here this afternoon. The theme of this particular also talks about bridging the gap. I really talked about it over the night, like what does it mean to actually bridge the gap? I teach research and looking at the problem statement most of the time. I always try to draw the gap. But then there was the dimension of exploring innovative technologies to balance and at the same time to systematically transform education and society. So, and then he told me to speak about bridging the gap, exploring new approaches to research in the 21st century. But one thing I want to say here is that as I stand here today, kind of really privileged to discuss this particular topic. I believe that this topic bears a very significant importance, not only in the global scenario, not only in South Africa, not only in Nigeria, but also in each of our personal journey and much more our professional life. Because when you're looking at research, exploring research approaches in the 21st century, you realize that it's very important to us and it will determine your professional life at the end of the day. I remember having graduated as a master's student doing PhD, where I had to start thinking about new research approaches. I remember what I initially met was people doing ANOVA for what we call now, for data analysis. And together with some of the colleagues that work together, we kind of realize that you can actually shift these frontiers and move into structural education modeling. And at the moment, people are moving beyond that. To say that the subject at hand, which is bridging the gap, exploring new approaches to research for the transformation of education and society in the 21st century. This particular topic, I really see it as deeply very meaningful, not only to me, but if you really have a stake in the future. So, as you know, we are currently living in this particular era that is marked by rapid, unprecedented changes, and it's kind of really primarily fueled by technological advancement, which everyone calls community. So I believe that we actually find ourselves constantly trying to keep up with this particular, I call it an ever-evolving landscape, as this particular research endeavor kind of really have taught us, and much more within the field of education and society. We basically try to enhance the potential benefits, while at the same time, we're also trying to see how to mitigate the challenges that is brought about by this particular transformation, because you realize that at the moment, if you are submitting funding applications, if there is no 4I arrow, if there is nothing relating to climate change and sustainability dimension, you kind of really find your research or your applications not being supported. So we find ourselves in this particular ever-evolving landscape. So I believe that there are a lot of potential benefits, which, if we consider them, can actually bring about transformation in our own research and much more for your future. Because I see most of us here, when you finish your PhD, either you want to stay back or you want to go overseas, but it all depends on what you are doing today. So yet, we have to look at this particular transformation, that it is very sizable, but at the same time, it can also bring about what I call a divide between the capabilities of the digital age and how we also utilize what we are learning, what we are hearing, what we are studying in our educational system, and at the same time, how do we use it to build the societal structure. So, as you all know, in this particular 21st century, digitalization has brought about rapid changes, okay, that have basically reshaped virtually every aspect of life. If you see at the moment, as I said, even the industry, everybody's talking about digitalization, everybody's talking about BIM, everybody's talking about cyber physical systems, talking about much more blockchain. And there is even the other dimension that you see that even the BRICS nation, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they've been kind of exploring a challenge for the past 5 years. They call it the BRICS Future Skills Challenge. And if you look at the BRICS Future Skills Challenge, everything they are talking about in those challenges are the skills of the future, where young people kind of really come together to kind of really work collaboratively. It's a competition, but it actually opens up a new frontier, telling us that the BRICS nations are really positioning themselves to ensure that they're not playing catch up with what we have seen over time with the Northern blocks. So this particular digital divide have actually brought about spark revolution in healthcare. Most of you are working in those areas. Also finance, transportation, and commerce. So that tells you that if your research, even though your PhD is not focused on it, if you have that kind of thinking within you to actually be able to explore them. As a PhD student, I realized that it's not just about my PhD topic. I have to write about other dimensions. I am not restricted with basically what I am told to work on, because if you restrict yourself, don't forget you are going to graduate
And when you graduate, you need to basically get suitors. You know, I always tell some of my students that when after finishing my PhD, I got a Fulbright scholarship to actually go on postdoc to University of North Carolina. But at the end of the day, I decided to take it because I saw an opportunity to be able to grow. Why did I get it? Because the Fulbright is very lucrative, it's very competitive. It all depends on how you have actually broadened your horizon, not just fixated in that particular topic, because some of you are doing some PhD topic that you are not even interested in. But let me tell you the truth, or let me say, probably your supervisor wants it. I only say that the PhD is like a license to practice research. When you are done, nobody tells you what to do anymore. And you need a PhD and you need it quick. You are doing a master's, you need a master's and you need it quick. Are we together? So you look at the dimensions that digitalization has brought a lot of opportunities in healthcare, in finance, transportation, housing, commerce. However, I want to say that education, which is one of the most vital pillars of our society. I remember the last time I was speaking here, I talked about the pillars of the society. Education, which is one of the very foremost vital pillars of our society, often lags behind in transformation. We lag behind in transformation, and we leave behind a gap between the traditional pedagogy and the demands of the digital era. At the moment, you see academics debating and arguing and showing hatred towards ChatGPT. You start wondering, what's our problem? Why are we not resisting Google? Why are we not resisting Google Scholar? Why can't we look at these particular instruments to actually be able to develop ourselves and do things better? Because we believe that our traditional ways of doing things must not be tampered with. And that's basically where we are also in the industry where I work in the construction industry. We don't want to shift any frontiers. We don't want to shift any boundary. To say there is basically approach for us to kind of look at new things and you position yourself for the future. So I believe that it is all about fundamentally rethinking our entire approach to education so that we can be able to align ourselves with the demands and the realities of the 21st century. It's one of the things you must think about as a student, because you need a job, you might not have to live here, there are a lot of opportunities out there. And UJ, in terms of its vision statement or mission, talked about reimagining. You need to reimagine, you need to rethink the approach that you are actually kind of really putting into how you are working on the project at this particular moment. So I believe that it is all about modeling our society to become more inclusive, become more innovative, and at the same time, you and I need to be future ready. And for us to be future ready means that we need to leverage the power of digitalization to drive transformation. We need to leverage it. The power of digitalization to actually drive the transformation that we see right in front of us. So as we proceed on this particular transformative journey, research becomes a cornerstone to success. I've seen it. Research becomes a cornerstone to success. I haven't trained as a quantity surveyor, haven't taught quantity surveying, but I saw a gap within the UJ community back in the days that people don't like to do research. So I saw research as a cornerstone for success. I really don't see a lot of Sachi chairs, a lot of research center of excellence that are awarded on the premise of pedagogical thinking or teaching, but most of them are actually based on research premise. Is basically awarded because you are doing research. So, ladies and gentlemen, those of us here this afternoon, to bridge the gap, I believe that we must engage in research that is both rigorous and relevant. It's one of the things, you know, having had the opportunity of working with a lot of PhD students from Nigeria, from Ghana, from South Africa, from most Western African nations, I realized that most of the time when I look at the topic that we are coming with, the topics are not rigorous. And at the same time, they might be rigorous, but they are not relevant for the future. To say that doesn't mean that what other people are thinking is not forward-looking. So that's why I said, as we proceed on this particular transformative journey, research becomes a cornerstone. And for us to bridge the gap, we must engage in research that is rigorous and relevant. That's why you need to engage these tools. You need to ask yourself what research is going to be relevant for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, because let me tell you the truth, funders will not fund your project because you are passionate about it. They will have to look at the relevance of your research. Is at the moment we're talking about net zero building, they're talking about carbon reduction and all that. Those are critical research areas, you know, looking at all the digital research that is kind of really taking place. So research that integrates the power of digital technologies, that explores innovative pedagogical practices, at the same time also illuminates pathways to a more equitable and prosperous society is what we should be thinking as academics. So don't think that probably you are doing your PhD, you don't really have a voice to speak. I was speaking to one of my students, I was saying that the journal we're currently running, which is 13 years already, that I actually started that journal with my professor when I was doing my PhD. At my first year of PhD, I realized there was only one particular built environment journal in the entire South Africa. And I spoke to my professor and he was like, you go ahead and run it. So it doesn't mean that you don't have a voice. So we need to kind of really create pathways to a more equitable and prosperous society. And this should happen, ladies and gentlemen, within the context of research becoming a beacon of light that will actually guide us on this journey to transformation. So I believe that it is through the rigorous processes of research that you and I can actually be able to generate what I call evidence-based strategies and solutions to actually bring about, to actually bridge this particular divide. If we are not able to generate evidence-based strategies and solutions, we cannot be able to bridge the divide. So you need to ask yourself, the research you are working on, are we able to generate evidence-based strategies from it? That's why if you work with me, you realize at the PhD level, we talk about frameworks, we talk about models, because we want to generate evidence-based strategies and solutions that can help us to bridge the divide, that can enable you and I to actually be able to think better in terms of how we need to do this. So as postgraduate students that are here this afternoon, probably some of you are postdoc, I really believe that you are at the forefront of this particular exciting journey. And your research has the power to catalyze change, to shape future educational policies and practices, and at the same time to drive societal transformation. Your research, my research. So the challenge, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, is for us to explore new research methodologies. We need to explore new research methodologies and areas that reflect the nuances of the 21st century. If you're like me, you realize that where everybody's talking about quantitative, qualitative, from there we talk about mixed method. I don't know if you're kind of really not tired of it in terms of is this all there is to research in our current era? But let me not say that we're not thinking. Together with one of my students finishing PhD at the moment, we're actually coming up with a new paradigm, a new pedagogical thinking when it comes to research methodologies that is kind of really relevant, and we really hope to pursue it at any length to see how it becomes another leg when it comes to research methodology. So, as I said, the challenge is for us to explore new research methodologies so that it reflects the nuances of the 21st century. Like when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about sensors to collect data. We should be able to conceptualize a research methodological approach that speaks to it. That's what we should be thinking. So we must explore how technology can facilitate personalized, learner-centric education. How can technological tools create adaptive learning resources which are tailored to each student's pace, style, and interest? These are the things that we should be thinking as students. So we can also ask the question, how can these particular tools that we see in this particular era facilitate collaboration beyond geographical boundaries? I know we talk about beam, and all that, but within the research you are doing, how can your research create tools that will enable us to collaborate better beyond our geographical location, not just in South Africa, not just in Nigeria, but across the world? So I believe that as we increase in terms of our thinking, we will actually be able to bring about a prevalence and exploration, kind of really creating a critical mass of information. And thereby, education will not just kind of really just be for education's sake, but it will impart knowledge, but also equip us as students with the skills to actually kind of really critically evaluate and effectively use this information to benefit our society, and at the same time to also enable you to further your career prospects. So I want to say also again that your research could also investigate pedagogical practices to actually foster creativity, that will actually try to foster digital literacy, to enable us to kind of really create skills that are essential for driving, to enable us to thrive in this particular digital age. So another crucial aspect of bridging the gap is to ensure that the benefit of digitalization is accessible to all. We need to also look at that. How will this particular benefit of digitalization become accessible to everyone? So we must also strive to combat what you will hear the former Vice Chancellor will talk about, digital inequality, and also for us to ensure that no one is left behind in this particular digital revolution. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can kind of really look at Okay, you want me to be there? Okay. So I believe that your research could also help us to identify innovative solutions and policy interventions to actually address what I call the digital divide, where there is no digital inequality, and for us to ensure that no one is left behind. Some of the things I'm talking about here, they are more or less articles you can work on, you can write on. They don't have to relate to what you are currently working on. So the digitalization era brings along what you will hear over time, exponential growth in data, which will actually lead to an information explosion. If you understand the amount of data that is collected daily, just coming into the campus, when we put our finger there, everything about us is known, your student card and all that. But the question is, what do we do with those particular data? So the role of education for you and I is not only to impart knowledge, but to equip and to develop skills to enable us to design the data, to analyze it, and also to utilize it, okay, for effective information management and to enable us to have better management system within our entire society. So when we do all this, you realize that we'll be able to investigate pedagogical practices, which will actually bring about helping students to think about and be prepared for jobs of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the jobs of the future that is not there at the moment is going to be data analytics. Because a lot of data that is being collected, people need to analyze it, people need to draw out trends, and when you become skillful in that, you realize that you can actually be able to carry out a lot of prediction. When I talk about prediction, I always relate prediction to my church life in terms of prophecy. People want to know what is going to happen tomorrow. That's why you see people run after prophets. To say in the academic world, just looking at data, you can actually be able to predict trends, you can actually predict solution to an industry, and at the same time, it will also help even your writing, and you become kind of really more relevant. I remember some days ago, I was just thinking about beyond artificial intelligence. What basically are we looking at in the future? I don't want to share with you. You must go and check it out yourself. But there's a whole lot of thinking at the moment. If you're thinking about ChatGPT in terms of how it stimulates creativity, digital literacy, one thing you must start wondering, you must be thinking is that when ChatGPT starts accepting pictures, and it can analyze pictures, you can easily upload a document to it to analyze it. The dimension is, what is that called? What is that particular approach called? And where are we basically going to go to with that particular approach? Are we still going to be relevant as researchers? Are we still going to be relevant as academics? I want to say that, importantly, the potential of digitalization should not create further disparity in our society, but it should basically help us to bridge them. And why some students are enjoy high-speed internet is like every one of us. When we left our home country, Nigeria, or wherever you had studied, I remember coming to South Africa the first time, and internet was kind of really something that was scarce back in the days. You need to really pay for it in Lagos. When I got into South Africa and I was given an office and I was given a computer, and the HOD said, "Here's your computer." And we opened it, I pressed it, this was internet. I don't have to go to business center, and it was so fast. That tells you that, most of us are enjoying high-speed internet, state-of-the-art devices, which others don't have. But you realize that there are people that lack basic access to digital resources, which basically leads to what we call the digital divide. So our research must identify ways to combat this particular inequality. And at the same time, we should explore affordable and accessible technology. There was something I saw when I traveled to Taiwan the last time, was that the sensors they are using to actually carry out experiments were being manufactured and produced by their students. To say, I get worried when I see people that study electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. They can't even fix a cell phone charger. So the question is, what actually are we teaching our students? How do we innovate? Do we keep depending on the West? Like we talk about China, but we can't do without China because people want to kind of really solve real life solutions. That to say, you and I can be different. To say, we can be in South Africa, we can be in Nigeria, we can be in anywhere, but we're actually able to bring about innovative thinking. So research must identify ways to combat this particular inequality. We should explore affordable and accessible technology, policy interventions, and at the same time looking at innovative model for blended learning. So furthermore, as I try to round up on this particular speech this afternoon, the concept of learning, as you and I know, has evolved. Education is no longer confined within the four walls of a classroom, nor does it end with a degree. I see people basically just, let me tell you the truth, your PhD is very good, it's a license to practice research, your master's is good, but you must realize that we must start thinking about a lifelong learning. There are a lot of courses you can take online because we need to bridge the divide. There are MOOCs, there are Coursera courses you can take for free. You just need to basically give yourself time. You just basically need to create time for it to enable you to kind of really do. So education is no longer within the four walls of a classroom, nor does it end with a degree. To say, after your PhD degree, what do you do? Simultaneously, the digital era presents an opportunity to foster a culture of what I call now lifelong learning. And with knowledge keep rapidly evolving, the days of education ending with a degree are behind us. It's not just about the degree, it's more or less what can you do with the degree that you have. And we need research that examines the efficacy of online platforms. We have a lot of online platforms. Usually we use a Blackboard and all that. You need to go and just check how much we are paying for that Blackboard. Are we not able to come up with our own systems where we don't have to use Blackboard, and at the same time we're still able to teach our students? So we need research that examines the efficacy of online platforms, micro-credentials, gamified learning in promoting continuous upskilling, and at the same time we're also reskilling ourselves. So in our rush to digitalize, we must not lose sight of what I also call the human element. Education should continue to foster what I call empathy, resilience, and social responsibility. To say, as students, as academics, how with this particular digital era help us to kind of really create those particular situations where we are kind of socially responsible, and at the same time we are resilient. So your research can help us to understand how we can kind of really balance technology with human connections, because we see a whole lot of disconnection at the moment with human kind of really relying on technology alone, and we lose out our social skills. So we need to also foster well-being and creating a sense of community in the digital age. I'm somebody that is very good with PowerPoint slides. I like doing PowerPoint slides, but these days I told myself, you know what? I don't want people to be looking at slides most time when I speak, and I want people to just focus. So I try to kind of really sit down to write, and on a serious note, because we are so carried away with PowerPoint slide, we're losing a particular social touch to know that we can actually be able to have a discussion to kind of really bring out our creativity, to really be able to engage in a whole lot of, just in a whole lot of debate. So in our rush to digitalize, we must not lose sight of these elements. So I believe that we need to foster well-being, create a sense of community in this digital age. And that's why anytime I'm invited to come here, I always come, because I like the sense of community. Some of us never had the opportunity during the days of my studying to have the Nigerian Student Association, because, as I said, being in Nigeria is kind of a swear word. Nobody wants to hear it. But, ladies and gentlemen, we need to create a community in the digital age as Nigerians. So finally, as we embrace technology, we should not lose sight of the human element. Education should continue to instill empathy, to help us to kind of really become more resilient. So we need research to understand how to blend technology with human connections using digital tools to actually facilitate mentorship. You can have mentors everywhere through technology, and at the same time, it helps to go. So the question arises, how can students contribute to this particular research-led transformation? How can you contribute? Firstly, I would say you need to be curious. You need to be curious and be very critical. You need to be a curious person. You need to be very critical. Most of us are not critical. Most of us are not very curious. You need to ask yourself a question, why are things being done this way? When I was doing my PhD, I realized I struggled with something when I was doing my PhD was I could not find a PhD template. Everybody was doing 5-chapter PhD, 6-chapter PhD. I asked the question, why are we stuck with 5 chapters, 6 chapters? Those of you that are in mechanical and electrical, it can be a little bit different. But for those of us that work in the construction industry where you need to write so much, I kind of really became kind of really curious. And in terms of the methodology, everybody was just stuck with exploratory factor analysis and interview. I told myself, why is everybody using interview? Being critical. And from digging, I will realize there is something called Delphi. There is something called structural equation modeling. Not just taking the path of least resistance. If you really want to understand what they call the path of least resistance, most of us, when we wake up in the morning, you realize that if you study it for the next 2 days, you brush your teeth the same way. The way you start from here, you end here. You will never start from your tongue. You start from, it's the path of least resistance. To say we need to be curious. I want to ask questions. Why are things done this way? Why are we not using structural equation modeling? Why are people not publishing these journals? And much more. I have to start asking some questions, even as Even though I was not even a full-time lecturer in my department then, I had to ask them, why is it that this department don't have a PhD in construction management and we have masters? Nobody could answer me. So as soon as I became full-time, the first thing I did, even as a lecturer, was to ask the process, how do we develop PhD and master's degree in this department? And I have to make sure it was developed. The rest is history. We have a lot of graduates out of that. So you need to be curious and critical. Ask, question the status quo. Ponder on the whys and hows of things. Seek evidence and evaluate it. Don't just chicken out like, what, I just want to get my PhD. Ladies and gentlemen, people want your creativity. Secondly, not just about the curiosity and criticality, you need to engage in research. We don't have to be lazy. As Nigerian students, as international students, as I said, when I was vice dean, the Nigerian student gave me a whole lot of problems. People kind of really become lazy and become entitled, but there were those that engage in research to say, let your work speak. So whether it is through your school projects, your research projects, I also have what I call pet projects. Apart from your PhD, you have other pet research you are doing by the sideline. You need to engage in the research. You need to explore issues that actually intrigue you and use digital tools to analyze them. My PhD study was on housing back in the days, but most of my foremost papers I was writing on were things like student satisfaction with accommodation. Somebody once asked me, why are you writing about student satisfaction? I told the person, even though I'm doing something on housing, I want to find out if students are satisfied with what they are doing. So you need to engage in it. And thirdly, you need to communicate your research findings, meaning that you need to write. Most of us complain, oh, when I write, my supervisor is going to benefit. He's going to promote my professor and all that. I come to realize something in life that everybody needs a promoter. Are we together? You are going to promote people, people are going to promote you. So you need to communicate your research findings. You need to use digital platforms to share your insights. You need to engage in discussions and you need to solicit feedback. Back in the days, if I have journals that are rejected, for no reason, or I had gone through 2 ranks, I'm rounding up, I would basically try to write to the editors to find out what is it I have not done well. How can I improve? I remember a particular guy that is an American, we still collaborate up to date, who is in Penn State University. I remember submitting a paper to his journal, and they rejected it. And I had to write to Professor Memeri to say what was wrong. And once upon a time, I met him in a conference and we became friends. At times, you need to basically communicate your findings, engage in discussions, solicit feedback. Don't be scared of rejection. So 3 things I said, in order for you to contribute to this particular research-led transformation, you need to be curious and critical, engage in research, and communicate your research findings. Write journals, write articles, go ahead and explore new territory. So lastly, and most importantly, it's not just about these 3 things. You also need to act on your findings. You need to act on your findings. Research is not an end in itself. It is a means to improve. Your research should be able to improve you. Use your insight to bring about change, however small it is. It might be in your classroom, in your schools, in your community. I realized back in the days when I used to kind of really get engaged with students, when I'm teaching project construction management, I would bring some of my research findings to share with them some of the things that I'm doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we stand at this particular, what I call crossroad in the history of education, we should navigate this particular complex terrain carefully. We must remember that our goal, your goal, my goal, is not just to adapt to the digital era, okay? But we need to thrive in it. It is not just to prepare students, it's not just to prepare you and I for the future. I believe that we should not just kind of not think about preparing ourselves, but we need to be able to use them to empower ourselves and to shape our community. So it is not just to leverage technology for learning, but to use it to build what I call a fair, inclusive, and enlightened society. So as I conclude, I urge you, the future researchers, most of you are going to become the greatest professor ever, and you will basically outdo some of the things, some of what I've done. On a serious note, I see it. I really see some of my students. I always tell myself, if you are starting at this particular insight, I'm sure in 10 years time, some of you would have basically some of the things we have done, which is nothing. You would have actually leapfrogged. So I urge you, future researchers, educators, professors, I also want to say future change makers, to take up this particular challenge. And I want to encourage all of you, particularly every one of you here, okay, to embrace the challenge and the opportunity that lies ahead. Your journey of learning, exploration, and transformation is integral to bridging the gap in this particular digital era. So let your curiosity guide you, let your research drive change, and let your work contribute to bridging the gap in the 21st century. So together, I believe that let's shape an education system, let's shape our research world and a society that is not just merely capable of keeping up with the digital age, but rather it is capable of leveraging it for a more equitable, innovative, and prosperous future. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, for this thought-provoking presentation. Sorry for that. This session is a session for question and answer. For those of you who have questions that have been bugging your mind for quite some time now, this is the time to express it. Just be free to ask your questions. So anybody in the audience? Okay, you. Any other hand? Any other person? Okay, please go ahead.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. Actually, anytime I hear digitalization, it's something that fascinates me a lot. I'm from the Strategic Communication Department. So my question is, you talked about gamified learning, which actually excites me. And there is a concept called the metaverse. So I want to ask, what do you think about the introduction of the metaverse into education and research? Because many people in my department really are not understanding it, but people from the America, all those other people have done research on it. So I don't know, what do you think about it and how do you think we can actually inculcate this in the education?
Okay, thank you so much. Any other question? Okay. Any other question? Okay. Okay, Prof, you can go ahead.
Okay, I think one thing we're not doing when we see some of these things that the Americans are talking about, we don't actually take them seriously initially. I remember in 2000, and I can't remember, I think when Prof. Ademola was about to take over, actually 2018, thereabout, then his presentation pitch for the Vice Chancellor position was talking about GES 4.0, looking at the dimension of 4.0. It was the first time I heard about 4.0. And one of the things I kind of really asked him then was, what is 4.0? And I had the opportunity of working with Professor Sina, who is currently in New Zealand now. And I realized that 4.0 was the future. That was 2008, still about 2008. 2018, sorry. And my curiosity was looking at digital technology, digitalization. And one of the things I told myself, personally working in the digital environment, was how would this impact the construction industry? I did a little bit of search. I realized that this is the way to go. So if you look at gamified learning, what basically they're saying is to introduce kind of basic games into our learning platforms, our learning system. The reason why we use the word gamification and all that is to say that people learn in a very meaningful manner, that it's very easy to understand. To say our current traditional pedagogy is so archaic. The way Pluto and all those guys learn is the way we are seeing it. People don't have this. We just glorify our shop now to whiteboards, still whiteboard shop. Whereas if you go to an American university, even their blackboard is like the iPad. On a serious note, you don't clean it, they keep just swiping it. You can come back and see what the guy is writing to say, with gamification, how is it going to change? It's going to change a whole lot of things that way. Because most of the things we're teaching, we need to tell ourselves, this thing relevant. We need to bring in a whole lot of thinking. So, considering the field, I would say you need to first of all understand the rudiment, the basics, or the building block of fourth industrial revolution, and those other points, and look at your career to say, how is this going to destroy my industry? How is it going to destroy what we are doing?
And one of the things I remember then, I had a student who is currently working in the UK now, Dr. Dario Susami. One of the things, after hearing Faustina talk about 4IR, we started talking about construction 4.0. We have not seen it before, but we kind of really told him to say, people are talking about it, so why don't we look at it in 4.0? And we started trying to populate it. So the first thing is, how will it impact us? I would say, don't worry about how it's going to impact the industry. First of all, you think about how will it impact me? What do I understand about it? What can I contribute to it? And most of my research, I think in the last 5-6 years, have totally shifted to construction 4.0. Everything we do, we add digitalization because that's in the future. Somebody once asked me, like, why are you always talking about digitalization? You are not an engineer. I was together. Because they don't look at it that way. This is the future. We are not going back. And we need to basically infuse it. So with gamification, I was just trying to kind of put out something now, which was part of my speech. I didn't kind of write that. Kind of gamified learning refers to the practice of incorporating game elements and dynamics into educational activities or systems to actually enhance our engagement, our emotion, our learning outcomes. Because people want to learn in a playful environment, and that's basically the way to go. I know the particular high school is here. The children don't have what they call textbooks. Everything is on the iPad. You can argue it's not effective, you can say it is effective, but at the end of the day, realize that what the school wants to achieve is actually to make these people think in a cloud-based system, to say that people need to have error, where basically hard copies that we see will be replaced by soft copies. And it is really working. And most of the kids are actually going into the IT world. So it's going to revolutionize the industry. There is no industry that is not basically going to be impacted. But then I would say you need to learn the building block and tell yourself, how do I contribute in actually bringing this particular change in my industry? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. Any other question, please? Okay.
Thank you very much, Okoro, for the wonderful presentation and for shifting us from the PowerPoint mode to new mode. Thank you very much, sir. My question revolves around the pet research you mentioned earlier. I want to ask, how does one manage with a career advancement? Because if one look at a PhD and the likes, and one is seeking for a job opportunity, they always like a focused research path. So if the pet research is not really that path, how does one manage those together in such a way that it's going to be a win-win situation? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think the question that David asked is very interesting. Slowly, I got my NRF rating. I remember I was rated as an NRF researcher 10 months after my PhD. Okay, somebody was asking me, how did you become NRF rated? 10 months after my PhD. One of the things that helped me was that during my PhD, I was not just doing my housing satisfaction study. I realized that there is something called a multidisciplinary environment, that you can be a multidisciplinary researcher, or most people it was transdisciplinary researcher. To say that I can apply my domain-specific vocabularies into any other domain. In terms of when we look at construction management, most people will just focus on cost control. But I started looking at construction education, bringing educational thinking into construction. So when I pick my domain-specific background to say I understand what construction is, I will look at it to say, how do we reform into the educational perspective? See the whole logic about. So I have to say that dig them on culture, in terms of how culture actually affects construction students' learning. Labor on it, I have a book chapter on it, see as a PhD student. So before I finished my PhD, I think I had over like 200 papers already, conferences and journals. So when I applied for my NRF, and you did NRF, we asked you your research track in terms of your approach. And I realized that there was a multidisciplinary researcher to say, I'm a multidisciplinary researcher in the built environment. So that kind of covered me. So everything I'm doing, I'm not going to that doesn't exist in UG. I won't go into somatology or I go into health science to go and be doing health science research. If I'm doing something with somebody in health science, it has to relate to construction altogether. That allows to bring in the built environment dimension. There's a research that my student, Dr. Olusegun PhD master's was on biomimicry. Biomimicry is not a construction. Biomimicry is something I first heard with the pathologists. And we can listen to the presentation of biomimicry. And like this biomimicry kind of is very well to construction. So I brought in biomimicry in the construction industry, which Olusegun also did his PhD on. I'm actually working on the whole essence of biomimicry is looking at nature-based solution. And one of the examples of that particular biomimicry is that if you look at in the wild or in the forest, you need to ask yourself in the forest, how do other animals kind of really protect their ears when the monkeys are making noise? You know, and we have to look at that to say, okay, if the monkeys are making a lot of noise and other animals don't have hearing problem, how do we bring that into our acoustic properties? So, what I'm trying to say is that if you look at the aspect of the PET project, you have to question that any research you are doing outside your current research relates to your domain. It's not like you're just going everywhere, publishing in mechanical engineering, in electrical engineering, but I have a project I did with one of the professors in electrical engineering. It was on housing. We're looking at housing and looking at how to actually measure optimization in low-income housing. So it relates. So you are actually going to balance it to say, where do you want to go to? Do you want to finish a PhD without a studies based in publication and at the same time be an established researcher? So I would not advise you to say, just focus on your research alone. You should be able to have other projects you are working on that relate to other aspects, but within your domain, so that you can broaden your horizon. And that actually gives you an expanded scope and approach, so that at the end of the day, you can actually be able to decide to say, okay, should I go to this area, or let me just be a multidisciplinary researcher. So I see a PhD now in town regional planning, which is kind of really interesting. And we're looking at a whole lot of concepts related to biology and all that, but it is within the built environment. And that's basically what you must think about, because there will be other prospects, but not more. If you go to a conference, you need to really get to listen to presentations you have not heard before. You need to look at what people are thinking. You need to look at what they are saying. And that will also help you to look at it. Are we doing it in South Africa? If you are not doing it here, when you come back, you must engage on those research and make it in South African context. So when we go to conference, we hang out with our friends. When I go to conference, I don't hang out with people I come with. I want to know more people, and at the same time, I want to know why this person doing this research. And considering that I'm fairly a little bit to understand South African comparing, I will look at the deep thing is not done here. So as soon as I come, I'm going to do that research in South Africa or in Nigeria, and you end up expanding the scope. So with what we call PET projects, things like a side project you are doing together with either your master's or PhD, your supervisor or yourself, you need to really look at it within your domain, and but make sure you don't go out, because that becomes kind of really questionable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Any other question? Okay, have someone there, Dr. Patrick.
Thank you very much, Prof. I just came in mind for the service. Prof, I have to thank you very much for this opportunity. Looking at your very fine. And so quickly. I think my first encounter with you was the one I was trying to go to the gym. And my host said the person is going to sign phase 1. So I quickly Google your name. And I saw that we are able to see my mama to start it. So it was a pleasure coming down. So my question would be very simple and straight. We are trying to grow in research. And often time we find ourselves in a dilemma of how to grow our research. Whether do we focus on impact factor, whether we focus on Q1, Q2, and how do we manage? You know, that I come across people who say, how can you publish 4 papers in a year? And we're like, okay, there was a year I published 12 papers. And the fact that I was able to publish 12 papers was I have students who have to supervise. So we have to go to the lab together, try to put more angle to it. But in the general term, how do you advise for those young researchers like this? How do we come up with publications? Do we focus on few impact factors, or we actually focus on getting as much as we can get to stabilize our seat so that we can find some way to put our head. Thank you.
Professors are asking questions, be very careful how they do that. You stabilize, how do you do that? You realize that when it comes to publication deadline, because nobody wants asked me to say, how do you publish 50 papers in a year? You know, people have forgotten the power of collaboration, which they don't work with. But once upon a time, when I was postgraduate students, when I started out, I didn't have any students. I remember in 2014 and all that, single-handedly, I was able to do like 3 journals and almost about 30 conference papers. But now conference papers are not really spoken of, people don't regard it. So how do you grow do you focus on Q1 or Q2? I realize that there's a school of thought that talks about quantity versus quality. And I see them in the faculty, they will tell you, you must publish quality papers and all that. So I always tell them, because I'm publishing a lot of papers, does that mean there is no quality? If I'm cooking for 20 people and they're cooking for 1 person, does that make you a better cook? And they always laugh about it. So I always tell them, that is doing quality. What is the measure of quality? Is the question we need to ask ourselves as academia. If you publish in Q1 journal, fantastic. It's now your research data that you're doing something time. But how do we measure the quality? Is it the Q1 or the citation? Do people use it? So this was my approach. I'm sharing with you what I did. So I realized that South Africa was very easy. So there is the D-head list, which you are all aware of. So I look at the D-head list. If the journal is on the D-head list, I'm going to publish it. Do you understand the logic now? If the journal is on the D-head list, because the D-head list is certified by the Academy of Science, which is the highest academic, let me say, piece within the South African academia. So I focus on the D-head list. I publish there. Then don't forget, it keeps shifting. They will tell you some of them are out. Those of them are out. I won't touch them again. I want to get that. So you now have to come up with the priorities to say, okay, in my field, which are the top journals? And you need to basically, don't forget, you can't just send anything to these journals. If your research work is something that has been done already, they will not accept it, irrespective of how you want to publish. So you end up that most people within 5 years, they have only 2 journals because they are checking those journals, forgetting that their research does not have the impact to be able to publish them. It's like building information modeling. You know, when I met the editor for automation and construction once, he was telling us for the next 4 years, anybody that submitted anything on building information modeling to automation will not accept because we believe people have already finished it. So you see, you can have very good people in that area and still be rejected in those kind of journals, but others can. So as I said, to grow it, focus on the D-heads for young academics and look at the D-heads list and focus on it and look at areas within my domain that people can actually be able to say you are contributing. Then, for you to increase it, you need to collaborate. I think one thing that helped me is that I've been fortunate to have excellent students that we were able to train and also taught how to go about it, how we have been able to collaborate excellent. But most academics don't collaborate. My students can tell you, one thing I teach them is you need to collaborate with others. Because if you can publish 2 journals in a year, if you collaborate with 4 other people, it means you can do 6 in a year. But most times we are very selfish. We think that we are the only ones doing the best thing and all that, and we end up doing the only one for the year, and it doesn't help you see it to grow. So I really promote collaboration amongst my master's students, amongst my PhD students. The only time I'm really confident to say, if somebody is not part of your student, I will not know as a supervisor, you don't end up with people. If you have a supervisor, the student must always speak to the supervisor before you can ask somebody else. That is key. You know, I have this kind of issue with my team before, and I have to comment on it to say, I'm not stopping you from collaborating, but we need to be able to manage who we bring you into the work and what their contributions are. So, Professor, this collaboration is more or less expanding your frontiers, and at the end of the day, you can end up doing 200 papers in a year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's been a nice time hearing from you. We, your students too, we can testify to how you challenge us at the university. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prof, for a wonderful session. Now we go to the next speaker. She just arrived a few minutes ago, and I just believe she stepped out to pick something. Our next speaker is Professor Chioma Okoro. Professor Chioma Okoro is a senior lecturer and program manager for research within the Department of Finance and Investment Management in the College of Business and Economics at the University of Johannesburg. Professional and research experience centers on real estate development, facility management, and construction capacity, infrastructure planning, and sustainability. She is the vice chair and treasurer of the Southern African of the African Real Estate Society. She is a member of the scientific and technical review panel for table conferences and higher ranking journal, and a guest editor for a special issue in the International Journal of Construction Management. She has also been a postgraduate review analyst, external moderator for research at the University of Free State and the Urban University of Technology. She has provided a level master's and 2 doctoral students to completion. Ladies and gentlemen, please can you give me a few minutes for her to step in? Wait for the little break. Ladies and gentlemen, let's clap our hands together as we welcome Professor Chioma Okoro.
Hello, sorry. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor. This is the first time I'm actually attending one of these events. I was a student from 2014 doing my master's here in Phoebe, and I got one of the invitations to join in CONSUJ. But because of the times, the meeting times, I think it was evening and around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I could not join any of the, I couldn't join any of the programs or activities. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So today I'm going to speak about bridging the gap, exploring new approaches to research. And I think maybe I was invited because of research methodology knowledge, and maybe how I've been also conducting research and collaborating with people as well. Even where you don't actually use the methods yourself, you learn a thing or two about the techniques. So this will be the outline of my presentation. I'll talk about the introduction and the technology enhanced learning and research, which I think is the focus now, given that we have been thrown into the online mode at first, and then now blended learning. And these periods affected our research. Even the way we collect data and the way we analyze data were changed. And then I'll speak about the data collection techniques, given the changes, the data analysis, and then I'll conclude. So in the introduction, I'll just briefly mention the tools that we can use for research, and then methodology, be it quantitative or qualitative, what we can use to collect data and also analyze new things that have come up in the field, whatever field you are, whether it's engineering or sociology or computer science, whatever field you are. Some of these techniques and data collection and analysis would affect you or influence the way you do things. So there I said, whether it is quantitative, whether you want to develop and test theory, or you want to just explore, undertake an exploratory research, and then get a theory from there, and then further maybe confirm or refute a theory. So technology enhanced learning and research. I would not dwell on the learning aspects because of the topic I was given. It's about research, new ways to do research. But we all know about the ChatGPT that came into existence in November 2022 and what we can do with it. So it analyzes text and answers questions. It is trained to respond to any instructions you give it. If you type in the topic you want, it recognizes the text and then gives you the feedback. You can also modify that, maybe ask them to include references or write code. It can also do that. Then we have SciSpace that I'm sure maybe some of you have heard of. It can be used to undertake review. So if you just upload the journal article, for example, that you want to review, it summarizes it quickly for you. Then also RevMan also does the same thing as a review manager. That's the short form of review manager. Then whatever method you want to use, you need to check its suitability and whether it is justifiable to use it under what circumstances, okay? Like I said earlier, whether you want to develop theory only in exploratory research, or you want to go further and test that theory. You will also need to think about the ethical issues around whatever method or technique that you decide to use. So, for data collection, qualitative research, and online methods and tools that can be mixed, this can include for secondary research, I broke them down to secondary and primary, for both qualitative and quantitative. For secondary research, you can use web-based experiments and surveys. You can find data from social media accounts. You can also use databases and you can do systematic reviews. For primary research, you can use immersive technologies. Some of you attended a session that I held last month about immersive technologies. You can also collect data using such technologies. Then you can also do imaging, thermal imaging, as most of you are in engineering, and you may be able to collect data from physical structures using thermal imaging. And then you can use online focus groups and interviews. You can also use drones and laser scanners, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. Then there is digital storytelling. That is a qualitative approach that you can use pictures and audio or visual information from participants to put together a story about any objective you want to achieve. Excuse me. Then you can also use reflections. I've published a paper on hermeneutic reflections, where we sat down and just deliberated on our experience on a past project. So you can also publish on that. You don't need to go collect extra data, but you can sit and reflect on something and write an account of it. It's like using diaries as well. Then you have online communities. So you can decide on your chats, on WhatsApp groups or on your Facebook groups or accounts, you can decide to study a group of people or collect data from a group of people within that online community or online space. You can also use expert panels. Some of us conduct or host panel discussions. Some of these are ways of collecting data indirectly, but you need to get the permission, or rather make the panelists know that you're going to use this data or the information from their discussion for research. That is the ethical part of it. So you can collect data, you can organize panel discussions, but even if you did not intend to use the outcome for research, you can actually approach them later and let them know in case they just find it in a public space. Then for quantitative research, the online method and digital tools, you can use online surveys from using JotForm or Google Form or Qualtrics or other databases that have statistical information. For example, I am in the finance field, real estate finance department, but most of our studies, or most of the research we do have statistical connotations or references. So we go back to the databases to find data to do some studies. And for data analysis and secondary research, you can use content analysis, where you go in depth and find the underlying meaning of whatever you find in the qualitative phase. For example, if you were to do systematic reviews and you finish the bibliometric aspects, you may want to identify maybe the top most cited articles or the top articles in South Africa, depending on the objective that you want to achieve. You can also find the top collaborations or collaborators to just know what they have agreed on or what they have disagreed on as well. So, but the frame of reference has to be carefully selected. The theory you're looking for has to be carefully selected. So you're not just blindly doing content analysis, but what exactly are you looking for in those papers? For example, if you were to say factors influencing technology adoption, for example, you need to look out for those factors and not sort of maybe the benefits of technology adoption or just the disadvantages of it. So you just need to make sure that it is clear the objective you want from these papers, and then when you select the papers that you are actually reviewing and identifying key factors or key findings that relate to your objectives. Then we can also use social network analysis. This that diagram you see there, you can use it to depict it's called the sociogram. You can use it to depict the relationships or links between actors and people and the variables that relate to them. You can also use trust maps. Those ones have to do with images and graphical representations. Then for quantitative analysis, bibliometrics fall in the quantitative section because they deal with numbers and quantities, and you need to say maybe how many articles come from this region, how many articles come from South Africa or UK or USA, or how many are published in Journal of Facilities Management or any type of journal you're interested in. Most journals these days do not actually accept now only bibliometrics because it tells them very little. So it would be better if you add the content analysis aspect just to explain further what the quantitative results mean. Then some tools for visualization and analysis. You can use Viewer or Gephi or similar visualization tools. Then there is also meta-analysis where you could decide to, okay, instead of just looking at databases or numbers and analyzing relationships between them, you could decide to go into the results of other studies. For example, if a study indicated that awareness or lack of awareness influences technology adoption, and then they indicated the impact factor, like to what extent, you can go into several studies, up to 10, even as little as 7. You can do that as little as 7, from 7 to 15 is acceptable. You can just analyze the results of those, or the results from those studies. So when you do a meta-analysis, you can use a software called comprehensive meta-analysis and impute the findings from those studies, and it gives you your own effect size. Then for mixed methods, you could have interpretive structural equation modeling, which I'm aware some of you have already used. And then you can use structural equation modeling for the quantitative aspects. But a mix of it is where you integrate the qualitative and quantitative in explaining your model. Then I already mentioned the bibliometrics and contents which go with the mixed methods. Then for primary research, you can use the neural networks, artificial neural networks, or convolution neural networks. As also the equation structural model is a variant of the SEM and the regularized SEM, where you assign penalties to the variables, especially where you have a complex model that you don't know how to reduce. You can use regularized SEM to reduce it, just to get a better fit model. Then there are Q and R learning techniques. Most of them are used for, excuse me, are used in the finance field or whenever you have quantitative data to play with. Then we have analytical hierarchy process, where you just rank the variables from participants as well. Then machine learning techniques, we have supervised and unsupervised machine learning, where you could do topic modeling. I recently published a paper on topic modeling, and it's like a qualitative and quantitative aspect or interface, where you have coding. You code the data, and then you say the impact of the data. So not just the coding, which is a qualitative thing, but then you can go ahead and say what that means, the impact, the network that you're looking at, what it means in relation to the objective of your study. And then you use the latent dirichlet analysis for that. Then you can also have software and tools like MATLAB and Python to do that. You can also do a Monte Carlo simulation. So some of you are aware of are involved in data analysis using statistical data, and some of these later techniques will benefit your studies. Then in general, I'm going to conclude now, the benefits of adopting technology in research will be increased participation rates. So sometimes participants want to disengage, or they don't want to be known for that confidentiality sake or anonymity sake. So they would want to maybe remain anonymous while responding. So if you have your questionnaire, for example, on Google Forms or online platforms, or even online interviews like Zoom, they can switch off their cameras and you'll be able to collect the data you want. They will be willing to participate and share and be honest and open. And as opposed to when you're doing it physically, they might be skeptical or afraid of what you're asking, or afraid of engaging with you, or just keeping quiet, or just giving you a one-word response. So doing it with technology will increase participation rates, and of course you'll be able to report an input sample size. And then also reliability and trustworthiness. If you collect data from a database and you're clear about where you got the data from and how you got the data from, nobody is going to ask you, but why did you meet this person and not meet this person? So issues like that will come. Your methodology will be clear to everyone. Numbers don't lie. Platforms like technology, they don't lie as well. Then for your own benefit as well, personally, you would have enhanced learning. You will be able to move with the times, okay? We cannot be left behind. We have to still continue and publish, like Prof. Clinton said, you cannot stop publishing just because things change. Okay, then you need to engage, collaborate with people. You might not know how to do these things, but you can find someone who has done it. For example, Ade has done some interpretive structural equation modeling. You can reach out and say, can you assist me? Can you advise me? Can you do this? Let's work together. It's collaboration. It's knowledge sharing. It's giving and taking. Okay. So then it's very important for you to consider the ethical issues around whichever method or technique that you decide to use. If you say, okay, I'm going to use social media, how do you select the people? How do you reach out to the people? Do they know that you're going to use this? Okay. The issues about data being in the public domain is there. Okay, so you need to clearly say it's in the public domain. It was available. In my faculty, I'm in College of Business and Economics. In my faculty, we actually have ethical clearance for secondary data. So you need to explain explicitly who, where, how. Do they know? Do they care? Do they need to know? You need to explain all those things in the application form. So it's not just, okay, data is there, you can use it. No. Can you use it really? If you publish it in the public, in a journal or something, is there someone who's going to question you? So things like that, ethical, you care about the person reading it, the person you're talking about, even while reporting it. So these ethical issues need to be taken into consideration when we're talking about technology and online mode of learning or online mode of research, and just making sure that your research is not questionable and just reliable in general. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Professor. Thank you. Now we'll be having our third guest speaker for the day. Sorry. Yes, our third guest speaker for the day received his BSc in Industrial Chemistry in the year 1998, MSc Industrial Chemistry 2004, and PhD Chemistry 2009 from the University of Ilorin, Nigeria, University of Benin, Nigeria, and the University of Western Cape, South Africa, respectively. He has been a recipient of the Royal Society of Chemistry, Young Chemist Award, and the Royal Postdoctoral Fellow. He is currently a professor at the Department of Chemical Science at the University of Johannesburg and the Director, Center for Nanomaterials Science Research at the University of Johannesburg, and also the chairman Electrochem SA, the Electrochemistry Division of the South African Chemical Institute. He is also a member of the International Society of Electrochemistry. His research interests are in development of electrochemical sensors and biosensors, electrochemicals and photoelectrochemical systems for water treatment materials, and nano electrochemistry and material electrochemistry. Ladies and gentlemen, let's clap our hands together.
good evening or afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and speak at this program. I would love to start with a lot of apologies. Apology number one, I came in late. Apology number two, I actually totally forgot I was invited. I'm still thinking of firing my PA. Maybe the excitement, today's my daughter's birthday, maybe the excitement made me forget, because I actually planned that I will come here wearing agbada or something that looks Nigerian. How can I come to a Nigerian program and I'm wearing jeans? It doesn't tally, but only for me to discover that we only have one Nigerian here, and the rest of you are Masedequelis. So now I understand, based on that, I forgive you. We are all in the same shoes. I wonder what suit and tie is doing in a Nigerian meeting. It's very wrong. It's very, very wrong. I was looking for Iran Buba. I wanted to make war, you know, Fredo, and you just make it as if you guys have become European. You are not. Your color tells you you are not. So I apologize for that. I didn't plan to come with jeans. I actually even thought by now I would be in China. I was supposed to be in China. So I thought I won't be able to make it, but Chinese did some funny things with my passport number, so I had a little delay. But at last I'm here, and thank you for inviting me, all the leaders. Thank you for calling me Bola, because it was your call that made me to remember this program. Don't record that part because I will sound irresponsible. How can this man forget a program? How can he just forget something like that? Yeah, I have to be honest, I really forgot. But yeah, I just felt I have to be here. It is very important for me to work with you. And I believe by God's grace, next year or next time, I'll prepare better and will support you better. So thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to the speaker who spoke before me. You made my work easy, because I did not come here to share all those nice, intelligent things that you shared. I know many people will have talked about that. So my approach today is going to be very, very different. It's going to be very different. It's going to be very personal. And I hope you like me at the end of it all. But it's fine. I know God loves me. I know my wife loves me. I know my children love me. So the quorum is already formed. Okay. All right. So I've been asked to talk. Number one, this topic is too complicated for me. When reading, exploring, I said, okay, fine. Let me say something about it. Now, I will just say a few slides to sound academic so that you won't think I'm not a professor. It's not a nickname. So the first two slides will sound academic, but the rest will not, okay? So what is research? Research is defined as a careful consideration of study regarding a particular concern or a problem using systematic method. I love to underline the word careful consideration. You have to take care, and I appreciate the speaker before me who talked about ethical issues, who talked about handling data. Another way of defining research is that research is a systematic inquiry to describe, explain, predict, control the observation, control the observed phenomenon. Now, there are a lot one can say about this definition. Systematic inquiry. For example, I'm a chemist. Sometimes I get to my laboratory. How many of us are in the sciences here? Sciences. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I get to my laboratory. My students are doing experiments. They don't have a lab note, and sometimes they did not even document what they wrote down. So it must be systematic. You must have something you have planned to do. Just don't come to the laboratory or to the university, and when you get there, that's when you start thinking of what to do. I think it's better to think of what to do even before coming to school. So these are just definition of research. And most of us here are, is there any undergraduate here? Oh, okay, it's still fine, we do research. All right, so what is research all about? The importance of research, and let me also use academic. I believe people in the social sciences understand it a lot. The moment you become a researcher, it means that you are now no longer in this level of thinking. You know, the lowest level of thinking is remembering. We used to clap for ourselves when you remember in those days. State and capital, Lagos, Abuja, something, something. How many of you remember those rhymes? The state and capital. There are 32 states. I can't remember the number of states when I left Nigeria, but there are 32 states. Jingalo, Gongola, you know those states. I don't know them anymore. So that is remembering. That is not the level researchers belong to. We have the level of understanding. We have the level of application. But the moment you start going into research, you are going into the level of analyzing, the level of evaluating, and most importantly, the level of creating new knowledge. For those in doctoral research, what makes your doctoral research is novelty, something new that you have added to knowledge. So this is a huge responsibility when you are doing research, because we are no longer we are not technicians anymore, but we are trying to add value to the community. Okay, that is very, very important. And as a good researcher, you must be able to do all this. And I know other speakers have spoken about this, and I do a lot of training on this. Other times when I'm more prepared, I can do some other trainings around this properly. But we must be able to effectively communicate our research also. It's very, very important. So those are the few things I just want everybody to understand. As a good researcher, you have come to the level of creating knowledge. You've come to the level of proper evaluation of what things are. It's very, very important. Now, I've been asked to talk about new approach to research. And if you look at the slide, you see that the word new is in quotes. There's nothing new under heaven. That's why I put it in quotes. Now, what I'll be talking about is not something you have not heard. The professor that spoke before me said a lot of interesting things that I find intriguing. I would like to learn more about them. I know we are moving toward the digital age. It is very important. And most of you know that more than myself. But there are some few things I think I may know more than you. And these are the things I want to talk about today. New approaches to research or academic generally start with a mindset. What is your mindset? Why are you at UJ? Why are you in South Africa? What brought you here? Mindset is more than looking for more rands, more naira, more dollars. I'll give you my example. I had a mindset that I wanted to study industrial chemistry from GSS 3. And when I got to first year in the university, my dream was to become a professor right from the university. So I went to school to study what I wanted to study, not what jammed me. Okay, do we still do jam? You know, yeah, you know, that exam. Oh God. So now you must have a mindset, something. And when I finished my master's in Nigeria, I just knew Nigeria does not have what I needed then. And I just told myself, you know what, I'm no more studying here because my first degree took 6 years, University of Ilorin in the days of strike, 6 years, so 4 plus 2. And my master took 4 years, 2 plus 2. So to do master's and first degree, it took me 10 years. And I just told myself, no more. Even if they asked me to come and read ABCD, I won't. So I went into software marketing. But the idea of going to software marketing was just because people said I know how to talk. So I think I can make money with talking. It's called Adekunle, if you know it in Europe. I had to, you know, so I knew how to talk. I had a very good class of degree in industrial chemistry, but talking was more important. So I became a marketer, and I was doing so well in marketing, but at the back of my mind, I wanted to be a professor. So I was looking for opportunity to study chemistry outside Nigeria. So I got scholarship with NRF. So when I came here with the mind of being a professor. I didn't come here with the mind of doing PhD and we will see what life will offer us after. No, I came with the mind. In fact, in my first year, one of my nicknames, I won't tell you the other one, but one of my nicknames was professor. Not because I was brilliant. I don't know what they saw in me, but they prophesied and it came to pass. In fact, I used to do tutorial. I studied chemistry. They used to hire me to do tutorial for mathematics in mathematics department. You can imagine. So I had this mindset of what I wanted to do. I had the mindset of what my vision is. It's very important. If you don't have that, you have to redefine it. What do you want to achieve from this time you are in South Africa? So the first thing here, I said, think impact. I know for undergrad, you don't need much of it, but for those of us doing research, the first thing, yeah, here comes the Nigerian. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. A round of applause for this gentleman. We are clapping for you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, all right, that was just a comment. So impact. The first thing is impact. The second one is think integrity. Third one is think gratitude. The fourth one is think tomorrow and think Nigeria. I'm going to talk on this point very passionately as God helps. New approach. What should be our approach? Number one, think impact. What is impact? Impact is a market effect or influence. The first thing is you must think, how can I affect the community? These are the things that drive people. How can I make a change in my community? Either South African community, global community, or Nigerian community. Think community. What can I do? How can I make a difference? Let me give you an example. When I was doing my PhD in Cape Town, I discovered that the area where I was in Bela, if you know Cape Town, I studied in UWC, there were many dropouts in the community. People were not going to school. It was a colored community. People were on drugs. It was a very ugly community. I remember when I left the postgraduate, because I was formerly in the postgraduate residence, so my wife joined me and my wife got pregnant and they told us that pregnant people can't stay in PG. So we had to move to the community to live there. And when I got there, I discovered that people don't go to school. During school hours, you see all these people, boys and girls, all of them smoking. It was so bad. So I came up with an idea that why can't I do what I call a back to school campaign? So I wanted the people, they were 100% colored community. We were the only Black in that community. So you could easily spot us anytime. So I just felt we can do something about it. So I went to some people, I said, I want to do a back to school campaign. I want people who have left school to go back to school. I want the community to start a night school for those who felt they can't go back to school. And while I was talking to people, somebody said, wow, this is a brilliant idea. Why don't you tell the VC, okay? Vice Chancellor, remember where we come from, Vice Chancellors are like gods. Some of you never saw your Vice Chancellor in your undergraduate. The only time you saw him was in pictures, okay, or in the news. So, but thank God South Africa is not like that. So I summoned courage. I walked to the Vice Chancellor's office and I said, I have a plan. I want this community, because this community is very close to UWC. In fact, the community is close to three institutions, Northland College, Cape Peninsula University, UWC, yet they don't go to school. When I shared my dream with the Vice Chancellor, the man looked at me and I'm going to quote him. He said, wow, a foreigner thinking this way. He said, you know what, right there, he called all the people in the university who called liaison office, something office. He asked them to do anything I asked them to do. So I went to the community. I took colored people working in Cadbury, successful colored people, because if I speak to them, they will say, I don't know what they are going through. If I tell them, they will say, you didn't go through appetite, so you don't know what we are. So I don't talk. I was not a speaker. So they came to tell them, you need to go back to school. things can change. For example, I'm a colored like you. I'm now working with Cadbury. I studied in the university. At the morning of that program, that was around 2007, the vice chancellor sent me 5,000 rand. Many people sponsored. The community gave me the hall. We got books for all those who were going back to school. We bought stationery. And I went to schools begging the principal to remove the suspension on some of the students so that they can go back to school. If you go to that community today, if I go to any shop in that community today, they give me free drink. That was impact. Okay, think impact, think community, love people. Is very important. Even if your research is in mathematics, it can have impact. Think economy. How can this improve the economy of your hometown? The economy of where you are. Impact is important. And you see, most of the time we don't think it at the beginning. Let that be your driving force. For example, my area of research is water treatment. I have a dream of what I want to do in water treatment. And I'm getting towards this every day of how I can solve problems of community water, problems of pathogenic pollutions in water. I'm thinking community. So please, it's good for us to begin to think impact. You see, you asked me to come and talk about approach, isn't it? So that think impact. How can this help? Even if you are doing undergrad, how can this undergrad degree, how can I use it to help my community? Even getting to Johannesburg here, we adopted a school. It's called, there's a school here, I remember the name now, the boys' school. We adopted the school and I used my postgraduate students to go and teach them chemistry, to teach them physical sciences and mathematics, okay? Okay, I'm a missionary, all right? I'm a missionary with the Men of Africa Vision. So maybe being a missionary motivated many things also. But we went to that school and we started teaching them three things: mathematics, physical sciences, and leadership. Now, leadership was my way of sneaking gospel in to whatever I went there to do. Okay? And leadership also means that I felt something must change with these young people. I believe that one man can make a change. So we did that. Currently now, I'm running a program called Gentlemen's Meeting. Gentlemen's Meeting is a program where I talk to young men about life, marriage properly, issue of beating up women. You know, you got a girl pregnant in Eastern Cape, you stuck alive there. Here you are carrying UJ card all around, whereas you have damaged somebody there. That is not life. And believe me, we are having impact. People are coming to say, I don't want to be like my father. Fatherlessness is a problem. Now, I'm a chemist, isn't it? But impact. Now, I don't want to talk about the impact of my research only because when he was reading the portrait electrochemical, I was saying, oh, God save this guy from all this big jargon. But these are the things you can identify with. So please, let's begin to think impact, social impact. How can my life help the community? If you are a PhD, you are a master's holder, the community must feel. That's the way I feel. The second one is integrity. Approach to research, integrity. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principle that you refuse to change. Now, I'm glad I'm talking to Nigerians here. This is one of my biggest problems with us. I don't know what happened to us. We have lost integrity. In the university, I belong to a group called, there's a committee called Plagiarism Committee. I had to leave that committee wisely because my pastoral mind would not cope with firing or expelling students. And sometimes when you get there and you see the name of the person who cheated today, a Nigerian student, the one who went to change DNA barcode, Nigerian student. Nigerian student, we have brought bad image to our country. Many years ago, we all know that when you want to start a research group in this South Africa, the best thing you can do for yourself as a researcher is to look for Nigerian students, because we are hardworking, we are brilliant, we are intelligent. But you see, your hard work, your brilliance, your intelligence can be a waste when you don't add integrity to it. I've seen a lot on this campus, and that's why I've never really been in this meeting. For a long while, I have not been in any Nigerian thing. I'm not interested, because I just wanted to be on my own. I hardly know anybody except people in my field. I don't belong to any Nigerian association, but that is not the best approach to it, I know. But I could not stand our wickedness. I could not stand the lack of integrity. We are the one coming to teach many people in this country all the bad things they never knew. I have many examples on my head about how, when we came to South Africa, we were thinking of tomorrow. Today now, you will see that many people are skeptical about hiring Nigerian students. Why? Because when you need them, they are very kind, they will kill you with respect. They will dobale, they will kunle, they will do all those things, but it's all a lie, because at the end of the day, the love of money, and I don't know where we are running to, make us to lose integrity. You will get there. I came here as a PhD student, graduated in 2009. I did postdoc for 2 years, one with UWC, one with UJ. And when I got my first job, it was a senior lecturer position. I jumped being a lecturer. I got a senior lecturer position. In 2016, I became a full professor. I did not do shortcuts. Integrity. My data integrity. Some of the research I did in my PhD, my students are still doing it. I repeated it 40 times. And I got, so it's reproducible. Some of you just do funny things with data. I've hired many students who are Nigerians and they will get a result. I remember one came to me one day with a result. I said, wow, if this result is true, we deserve a Nobel Prize. He said, no, Prof is correct. I said, if it is true, we deserve a Nobel Prize. At the end of the day, I walked to the lab, the guy was lying. He could not repeat what he said. He started speaking grammar. Oh, sorry, it was a mistake. Which mistake? I gave you 2 days to correct the mistake. And on and on and on. It's so bad. Something happened recently in our department, and it was brought to my notice, again, Nigerian students. I don't know what went wrong with that. Integrity is very important. It will take us far. So let's ask ourselves, are we honest people? We should not carry the virus in Nigeria and we bring it here. Why is it that I'm not in China today? Prof, it's integrity. If you see the way Chinese looked at my green passport with all my PhD and my publication, but the green passport spoke louder than my papers. I've been to places, they will set me apart, search me. I was in the US, they were searching me as if I was a drug dealer, and they asked me, where's your driver's license? I said, did I come to US to drive? Did I tell you I'm Uber? I came here for Uber. They said, no, we want your driver's license. Police will stop me here when they know that I'm a Nigerian. They will say, oh, do as your brothers do. I've had it many times in Igbo. Do as your brothers do. I said, no, this one is a different one. In fact, it got to a point when they asked me for money, I have Bibles in my car. There was one who asked me for money, I gave him Bible. The guy froze. He said, I said, yeah, that's what I have to offer you. Can't we change this? I thank God that we have a new government. Either we voted for him or not, he's there, and I'm happy. And I pray God will keep our president. Can I hear amen to that? I believe whether you're a Muslim or a Christian, we all say amen or amen, isn't it? Nigeria must change. It's making very good decisions. Well, as a Christian, please, I'm not being religious. It's our duty to pray for our leaders. So Nigeria will change, but you see, it has to start from us. Integrity. Is there integrity in your research? When the result is difficult, you just put numbers from nowhere and you cook it up. I had to leave that meeting, Prof, because case 1, Nigeria, case 2, and you know I was the only Nigerian in that place. And they look at me, your brothers are here again. What a shame. In fact, there was one that was expelled, well, about to be expelled, and the guy had the guts to want to sue the university, and he was harassing the female professor in a land that is not his own land. If Nigeria was where it should be, many of us won't be here. And then that will take me to the next one. Gratitude. I approached my research with gratitude. When I came to this land, my professor told me, the problem we have in this group is not chemical. Order anything you want. All I want is result. I did like this. Am I in the world or am I in heaven? Somebody telling me that chemicals is not a problem. Order anything you want. I've never had that in my life. When I was doing my master's, I had to buy sulfuric acid. That's the cheapest of all acid. I had to go and buy sulfuric acid. After I've done my research to 75%, I ran out of acid. And I was begging lab people to give me acid. They said, no, we can only give you this amount. And this amount cannot finish my master, the master of 4 years. Cannot finish this thing. They said, no, you have to go and buy. So I went to buy sulfuric acid, only for them to lie. They sold me we have what we call analytical grade, and the other grade I've forgotten. The one they sold me had a very poor purity. So my data could not match anymore. Integrity again. Sulfuric acid, I bought fake acid. Now, I had to go and use my money to buy the real one. I went through, it was difficult. Now I got to a country where I needed sulfuric acid. Everything is there. I needed everything. My PhD was on DNA. They said I had to order DNA. I said, what is DNA? Everything, just press button. I didn't even know what money was all about. I just pressed, I just called, I get it there. Then I sat down. I said, wow, I am grateful. Are you grateful? The truth of the matter is, whatever you are getting in this country, Nigeria could not offer you. Then you come here, you forgot that wilderness shaves you from home to be here. You start acting as if you own the land. You know, many a time we say South Africans are xenophobic. Some of us provoke it. With the way we talk, you enter lab, it's like God has entered. You find, you know, I saw it a lot in where I did my PhD. You know, I was very quiet. You know what I was saying, Lord, I thank you. When I'm doing experiment, you know, I work with platinum wire. I told my student, I work with platinum. I mean, if you know platinum, you've had it before. Platinum is more expensive than gold. I work with platinum that is 99.995% pure. Then I took a platinum sheet, something as small as this. Who can guess how much I bought it? Just like this surface area, 85,000 rand. Then I work with electrode. So sometimes I buy platinum sheet for 115,000 rand. And here am I applied for funding. Some of my funding, there was a time NRF gave me 5 million rand to do some research. Now, being undergrad, I sat down. Am I not supposed to be grateful? Now, this gratitude made me to treat South Africans with respect. This gratitude made me to love them. In fact, it was easy for me to assist them, either no matter how they asked me. I didn't make them to feel I came to compete with them in their land. I came with the mind of gratitude. After all, this guy, I finished my PhD in 2 years, 8 months. Here, Nigeria master's was 4 years. Strike upon strike. There was one strike of 7 months. Thank God they repeated it again a few years ago. Habakkuk 3:2. They are repeating it again. So, gratitude. Are we grateful? Look, I'll give you one example. There was a student, a Nigerian student in this university, maybe the person is here, I don't know. He sent an email, he had a problem with his supervisor. And he sent an email exposing the supervisor and sent the email to everybody in the university, including the VC. He said the supervisor took money from me, he did it and that. And when I read that email, he even copied the consular general, I don't know, somebody in embassy. Then I asked myself, so you want to destroy this man's career just for this matter? But when things were fine between you, there was no noise. This was the man who took you in. You know, let me tell you something. My PhD supervisor can never annoy me. Because with all my brilliance, I was rusting in Nigeria. It was a man who had never seen my face who took me for PhD. So he can never annoy me. There's nothing he does. He can never annoy me. But I was in a research group where some of the foreigners, macroeconomists like me, this prof is so full of himself, blah, blah, blah. Gossip here and there. Nigerians are the best. We gossip about supervisor. Why didn't you do that PhD in Nigeria? Why? Gratitude. There's no way can Professor, unfortunately it's a Nigerian, Professor Emmanuel Iwoha. There's nothing he can do that can annoy me because the gratitude that this man gave me a chance to pursue my dream outweighs all his weaknesses. Are we grateful people? In our approach to things, are we grateful? I see a lot of things people do it like, you know, in my group when they begin to talk, no. We all own this group. I laugh. You don't own this group. You don't own this lab. Whatever chemical you are using is taxpayers' money, and your parents are not part of those taxpayers. Let's be honest with ourselves. We say xenophobia is true, but you see, sometimes there's a way you provoke things. So my approach to research is gratitude. And that was why, you know, when I was applying for my PR in those days, we used to write, I don't know how it's done now, we used to write a motivation. My motivation was few lines. I came here, I did my PhD, I'm among the, actually when I did my PhD, I was the only one in Africa with that specialty, electrochemistry of DNA. And I said, with all the skill I have learned, it is proper for me to plow back to the country that gave me the opportunity. That was my motivation for my PR. And I got my PR, no lawyer, no shortcut, nothing. Gratitude. Are we grateful people? The way we do things. You know, sincerely, just if a South African comes to me for anything, I go out of my way to help them. You know why? This country has blessed me. I treat them with utmost respect, utmost love. And they know in my group, you don't just talk to them anyhow because you are brilliant and so what? You will have taken your brilliance to Ekiti State University. Gratitude. Okay, I'm aware of my time. So it is important. That's my approach. I'm grateful for the funding. You know, one of my professors who taught me in school came to my lab one day. You know what I have in my laboratory? Some old university in Nigeria don't have it. So the professor came, my teacher, the one who taught me. He said, Tayo. I said, sir, is this what they call Raman spectrometer? I said, yes, sir. He's a professor of organic chemistry. He had never seen Raman spectrometer. But here we are, we have it. One of my colleagues is a professor, one of these days I know will be here also, Professor Luafemi. He has a machine in his lab that cost over 21 million rands. Entrusted to a foreigner by the South African government. Let's be frank. This country has done well for us. Believe me. I've gotten many scholarships. I've gotten many funding. My name is obviously not a South African name, but I still got it. So in a way, even for some of us here, if you are Igbo, you go and apply for scholarship in Yoruba land, you won't get it. If you are Hausa and you go to Igbo land to apply for a plot of land, you won't get it in your own country. And here you are in another man's country, you apply for bursary, you get it. and you are not grateful. How many scholarships did you hear of in Nigeria? We only hear when they have given it out to all their children. As brilliant as I was, I didn't get any scholarship in Nigeria. We only hear that there's something called total scholarship, share scholarship, slum BJ scholarship. We only hear it when they have awarded it to people in your own country. Now you are here, you apply for NRF, they pick you, and yet you are still Bugai. Sorry, is it part of what you call me for? I want, and I'll tell you why I'm talking about this. Take me to think tomorrow. Let me be honest with you. I don't want any Nigerian in my group anymore. Many people have applied to come to my group. I said no. You know why? Some people came ahead and blocked the way. Is that not what you're going to do? Somebody came to me and said, Prof, if not that I know you, I will have said, are all Nigerians like this? I said, no, we are not like this. In your relationship with your supervisor, think tomorrow. Think that somebody else will need the spot you are in now. When you spoil it, you have blocked the chance for someone else to come. Sincerely yours, I've reduced. If I have a colleague, not even one, they have said it's like a vow, I will never take an Nigerian student. Why? You give them all the opportunities. I've seen a student of mine that I took for masters. Finance team over. There's nobody in my research group who uses 1 rand from his money. God has blessed me. I have funding. The way I do my research is quite different. You don't come with your topic. I've already written proposal funding for the next 5 years. So when you come to me and say, this is what I do, you like it? Yes, plug in. That's the way I work. No student, so no student can brag. I brought topic to your group. Sorry. You didn't bring any topic to my group. I have planned my research for the next 10 years. And God favored me with some funding. I'm an electrochemist. I do water treatment and biosensors. You like it? Join the board. I give you a skeleton, you add your flesh to it. So a student has finance, sponsored in master's, sponsored in PhD. Then I called one day this student, and the student picked the call, not knowing that he has picked the call. Phew! What I had, my leg was shaking. I was in my office. And he said, no. He was talking with a lady, Nigerians, both of them. That professor is so full of himself. Blah, blah, blah. He said all forms of things. I kept quiet. The next morning when he came to my office, a Yoruba person, no, don't be deceived by all this frustration of Yoruba people. Don't be deceived. So he came to me, prof. No, that was not what happened. So when he finished, I listened to him for over 12 minutes, bad-mouthing me. After the call, I now cut the call. Are you with me? I now called again. Now he picked. Oh, prof, how are you doing? I said, you said this. He froze. The next morning, he came with Nigerian Association to come and beg. I want to make heaven. I forgive. This same student, after finishing PhD with me, went to a collaborator of mine, somebody I'm mentoring, went to her, a South African, and said, man, I want to do postdoc with you, but I don't want prof to know in my research group. And the person said, prof is my mentor. How can I take a student without him knowing? So this student went to apply for GES scholarship. You know GES. He applied for GES scholarship. When he applied for this scholarship, the university, somebody congratulated me that my former PhD student got scholarship. And I said, how can he get postdoctoral scholarship and me the host? Does not know. So I now called the office, the postgraduate office. How did he get GES? Congratulations to him. Who was the referee? I don't know what made the woman to vomit what she should not say. The woman said, no, prof, there are 3 referees here. Now, I mentor people. That's one of my passions. So I have, some of them are professors now. So my 3 mentees, they are all ladies. South African, black. He used the 3 of them as referees, and I did not know. That's not all. I now said, I now got mentee number 1. See, when did you write support letter for this person? Then now, how will I write without telling you? No. Mentee number 2, no. Mentee number 3, no. I called this person to my office. He forged signature of 3 lecturers. When they came to my office, I put my phone on record. I recorded everything. I said, Doc, so you want to do postdoc in my lab without me knowing? How will you, how do you have the gut to do that? And he said, no. I said, but who wrote this thing for you? He said, this person, this person, this person. I said, no, you're a liar. I will call the 3 of them here now. They never wrote anything for you. And he said it was almost getting to closing time. It was almost time for the deadline. And so you forged signature of 3 people. I said, you know what? You will have lost your PhD today. I said, but you know, Saul will die, but David will not kill him. I said, so. And he didn't know that he was already taking a postdoc in UNISA that I knew. I said, you know what, you have option in UNISA. So write UJ now that you are turning down that GES, move far away from me. A student of mine also, I was to go for a conference in Morocco, Prof. And that conference was bringing together the best people in my field, the best people I wanted to meet. I added 2 South African ladies and 1 Nigerian. Let's go to Morocco. The South Africans were happy. Prof, thank you, thank you. This guy went and said, you see, this prof, everybody is going to Europe. He's taking me to Morocco. And I'm going to that Morocco. He said, you see, US is there, it's not sending me. He's sending me to Morocco. And I got to know about it. And I said, in my pastoral mind, I said, look, this conference we are going for is on biosensors. The editors of the best journals in our field are coming to that place. I'm going myself. I'm trying to expose you to the who is who in our field. And you say you don't want to go to Morocco. You want to go to US. I said, so I'm canceling it. Prof, sorry, I didn't know, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, fine, let's go. You know the funny thing? At the airport, we got the visa, we got everything. At the airport, they said he cannot fly. They said because we are passing through France and he needed a transit visa. So they dumped him. He used his mouth, didn't that was not going to Morocco. They would have dumped the professor himself, but luckily I have a US visa. So if you have a US visa, you can pass through France. It was dumped. I can continue stories of betrayal from now till evening. All are Nigerian students. Falsification of data, harassment of people, money. I would tell somebody, help this person. No, I'm not. If I help this person, my name will be on the paper. So let's think tomorrow. Don't let us block the way for other people. There are many people in Nigeria who deserve this opportunity. There are some with first class looking for opportunity. They would have been here, but you blocked it. We are now scared. I don't know about you, Prof. Sorry, I don't. Chioma, am I correct? Your son name, man? Prof. Okoro. I don't know whether you experience what I'm talking about, but some of us in the engineering, the sciences, we are tired. Every Nigerian student coming to my group now is a suspect. And the only thing I just said, because of my passion for Nigeria, I now said, for me to take you, oh God, I must know your father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, auntie, cousin, niece, so that at least you have rope on yanch, or lokundi. I don't know how to say that in English. So finally, think Nigeria. We should not forget Nigeria. I'm telling you, all I've told you today is what I practice, okay? Think Nigeria. When I came here, for many years, for the first several years I came to South Africa, I didn't go to Nigeria. Not because I didn't want to go to, I could not afford it. And but I told myself, when I am strong enough, I will go home. And for many years, I've been going home. I go to universities I'm a visiting professor to Covenant University, visiting professor to University of Ibadan. Now listen, with all humility, I go to UI, I do a lot of postgraduate training for them, free of charge. I pay my flights, I pay my accommodation, and I do sometimes 6 hours training at a stretch. I won't forget Nigeria for who they are. I had a meeting with the faculty and the young staff. I did a training for them. I spoke for 3 hours, and I was very thirsty. They didn't organize water for me. The whole UI, I hope you're not recording this part. Delete it after. I said, I'm thirsty. You know what they did, Prof? They went to bring me pure water in a sachet. And I said, you know what? I don't even know why I'm in UI in the first place. Because my first degree was in law, second degree was University of Benin. I said, okay, maybe because my wife is from Ibadan, maybe that's why, and I lived in Ibadan. I said, I won't come to you guys again. But I still go there. I've been to UNN. I've been to some other places at my own cost. I didn't ask for. I went to UI for many years. I never collected honorarium because I felt I must remember Nigeria. So let's remember Nigeria. Let's give back. I do online teaching or classes for Covenant University for some time ago. Let's give back. Let's help those who are home. You have access to journals, they don't. Assist them. You have somebody who knows one chemical or one instrument that can help, you have it here. Let them post it to you. Take it as part of your job to assist those who are at home. I won't say I talk about your parents anyway. But Nigeria is still our own country. Intentionally, I'm qualified to be a South African citizen. Intentionally, I've been doing proudly Nigerian. I just changed my mind last week. What Chinese thought showed me. I'm going for my citizenship now. I'm no more proudly Nigerian. But I carry my green, white, green passport. And I've been to many countries. But I still love Nigeria. Let's think Nigeria. Nigeria is going to be great again. And you see, when Nigeria is great, let me borrow you something. A woman gave me wisdom. Prof, I don't know, I also want to borrow you this wisdom. He said, start going home. Let them begin to know you. Because Nigeria is going to be good. And when Nigeria is good, Nigeria will remember those who contributed to it. So in your own little way, begin to do something at home. Something to develop the young people. Thank God for the internet. You can be here doing many things in Nigeria. Think home. Think home. Thank you very much. I hope that is not too much of a digression, but that is my new strategy. I didn't say much about myself. You can Google that, but I think that is. Thank you so much. I'll get it after.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. That was wow, a thought-provoking one. But I can rest assured you, Prof, that the new breeds you're seeing understands all these, and they are ready to right the wrongs. So you can trust us to some extent again. Yeah, definitely. Okay. I would like to open the floor for any question, any comments, any suggestions. before we move forward. Okay. So we see 3 hands. So
Good evening, bro. Thank you very much. A lot of prophecy. I got an image when we were talking about the experience with tenants. I'm Dr. Patrick Moise from the I'm in the faculty of design, engineering. For my master's and PhD in construction. So how did I end up in mechanical engineering? Somebody recommended me. They were looking for somebody. Somebody spoke to white guy, TCG, and I was in the gym. He said, send you because so I said, he looked at it and he said, you have not done anything. People to have the master's degree at what and what catalyst. He said, I was like, Prof, just give me a chance. And he was like, okay. 3 days later, I sent him an email again. Now I said, okay, I'll just sign it. With opportunity just left here. He said, I'll send it to one Nigerian called Professor Plenty. If they are approved, they are approved. Then he was advised. Because he approved. And I go home. He was in from my state and this state. Check his citation here. So I checked his citation. But what happened was he sent me details. And I was able to come up with 2 journal publications from it, which we publish in 5 parts of Q1. And this is my 4th year, I'm senior research. Senior, because my research is something like this. Now, what you have said is the fact. I look at my own experience, even Nigerians in our research. We have expressed this. Nigerians try to be too sweet. Nigeria have this reputation. Wait, just experience what you expect, what you have said. Before it. Our prof push-ups are meeting, they will say, making you a slave. UJ say 2 points. I have never published 2 points in my life. The least I published is 2.6. Last day was 4 points. No extra pay, nothing. But I will tell them I'm undergoing mentorship. But back then in Nigeria, we use our own money to buy sulfuric acid. People need most people, we use our money to buy it. And as well, we insult us. We'll beg them just to check our paper. But to come to a country, that's why we say, just send an email of what you want. And when the email comes, just approve. The chemicals will arrive, everything will arrive. All I'm saying, Prof, is I can't change your mind. But I want you to understand that there are still some Nigerians that are different. There are still some Nigerians that are still passionate about tomorrow, are still passionate about that country. There are still Nigerians that still believe that I can still make that. I can still stand out. I can still do what is right. I can still choose and stop my activities. We had a meeting for the TSI representative, and the lady was sitting beside us, and we were just talking. And the lady, I don't know, he whispered something to Prof. Prof said, the guy sitting next to you has the highest education. He back to back every day. Then the lady gave me a number. And there was one other Indian guy. He sent me an email. Because I did a presentation, I was trying to encapsulate some nanoparticles. I work with that. He wrote a full email, he has gotten funding, that. And I just sent him a paragraph. I said, the email was not copied. I said, I can't work with you unless you permission. Then after some days, I didn't get a response to someone my professor. I said, this is what happened. He sat down for a long time looking at me. Then he said, even the lady told me, give you your number and call her. What I'm trying to say in more essence is, we as Nigerians we must try to behave human. We must not be in a hole. We must not backstab. No matter what our supervisor is doing to us, is training, and that's what I call it, motivation. You are undergoing mentorship. Even in my tribe, when they want to mentor you, they can wake you up in the morning, they see sweet will come out. Wash all the dishes. My mom said when you bring someone from the to school with us, that was the first thing they do. We just put you too much work, go and keep the company of food to farm. But the element of that is to test your loyalty and your commitment and your integrity. So, Prof, on behalf of our parents, please open your door for us. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay, next person.
Good evening, sir. It's a privilege to listen to you. I have had the privilege of listening, but you motivate me. Why? Because your spirituality shines above me. A man who fears and believes in God will always do this. It's a privilege to listen. Before I came back from my PhD, I rose to at least in Nigerian civil service to pay that. I felt academics interesting. So I wanted because I've always used book to escape my mission. I happen to be the only surviving child in a polygamous family, and my mother happens to be the fourth, and I'm the only one bearing my family name today. So if you call me to my people where I will sit, nobody here will be able to sit. Because I'm the youngest living old man, so I've survived a lot of things. So spirituality and love of God. But to just cut it short, two things caught my attention. Gratitude. Gratitude. You see, honesty, that is, if a slave knows how to think, he knows how to show gratitude. And I know in Israel of old, a slave can even inherit the estate of the master. Because at a point in time, you might say, I don't want to go elsewhere after the years of servitude. Then they brand him for life to know that he's a slave. But you now have equal rights. So once again, I appreciate your spirituality. You see, I happen to, my supervisors were way younger than me age. You know, I'm getting close to 60, very close to 60. So I take that age as one of my greatest strengths. Because no matter what I become, even my father didn't need to be my age. All my siblings died long before my age. So I appreciate that. And like you said, keep back to Nigeria. Yes, one in the we are who we are because of the way things are back at home. All of us who are this are correctly. Now, young ones these days, they play emphasis on their intellect, not on their spirituality. And I know, sir, Prof, you didn't start your spirituality today. You said something. You said you couldn't go back home because I identified since I set my people, I've not been able to go back home because I didn't have. So you see, the life of those are unique in certain ways. In February, my supervisor told me it's no longer willing to go out. Whatever happened, I know they were better placed to make their decisions. I broke down and cried, and I told them that I'd rather go back home as a failure than to continue with somebody else.
The moment you took me on, that you were going to supervise me, whether it was right or wrong, my life changed and I believe for God. So the fault is mine. I appreciate you. So it was that gratitude there. And I said, okay, I'll speak to my co-supervisor. And they came back. Today they treat me like a baby, not because I'm one of their writers, because there's something I should that possibly. So gratitude is important. Then finally, each and every one of us, we came this far, no matter what, because we're a progeny of one father, the one who made the heavens and earth. Whether we acknowledge him or not, I was born into a deep Yoruba occultic family. You don't need to go and look for bully, you are initiated right from birth. And at the same time, my grandfather brought Islam. You know, they will say there's God, the common. So they do all these things together. So all these things run deep. The occultism, Islamic thing. But today, I do my best to follow the God of the Bible. Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, Jehovah. So I identify with him many ways. Not because I'm a brilliant scholar or anything, but because the one who made the heaven and the earth, who has been fighting your battle, has also been fighting your battle. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry, one question.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your insights. Number one, so I want to react to that. In our case, it's two journals. But I think the bottom line of what passes not all of us, and this is not depend on your experience or life. So it is promise that some of us are living a life of making you proud. I'm talking about you and your fathers. Yeah, that would be one. Number two thing is that it's something like a question. So I asked the former, not the former, the 14th king of Canada. That's Alan Sanusi, when he was talking about the Nigerian states and the fact that Nigerians in South Africa, how they are living the values and how we cannot support those things, thus in the name of the Father, I want to project the xenophobia stuff. That's, I mean, if anybody speaks in Hebrew, who is the person? If the person is in Nigeria, that means it's not, the first thing is not for us to defend, it's for us to say this person is a thief. So rather than condoning it. So now my question goes, into the fact that we understand what is going on back at home. And even when you say, oh, this political class is not favoring the nation, or this culture is not a good one, this one is not a good one now. And you entered the topic by saying take Nigeria. How do we now go home with these microscopic numbers of us? So go and impact the kind of change we want to reflect. I'm saying this one because it's going to be a game of numbers. Whether we like it or not, every 4 years has become a political festival of changing the narrative. And at the end of the day, just at the poll, you will see how people will be influenced by either money. I'm not saying either the president or the governor who will should not be the person there. But there is a way our choices reflects that we are not ready to change, or we are not ready for that, upliftment. So is there a mentoring, space? Can we come together for something like a diaspora or even people with like-minded Nigeria to form a movement such a way that we would educate the nation, bit by bit, bricks upon bricks, layers upon layers. And by the time it becomes a bigger thing, we know that a larger number of the nation is going with a mindset that we change the nation for. That's my point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that. Firstly, I want to know that here is even our association here, we We are not culturally biased. I'm not really biased. I hope I'm correct. And we all have to be a God. And so that's why I didn't make what I was talking about it. I have trained all forms of students, those who are Hindus, those who don't even believe in God, you know. But so I just want to integrity is integrity. Also, gratitude is very important because it cannot be I have to get up from there. I want everybody to be free. I want everybody to express one of our challenge back home. And what you have just said is simple. I had a conversation with somebody who on the time. We are aware of climate change, and we think we are truly making that. I teach something I call the power of one man. Make your own impact, because the day we wait for a movement, you get my point. The day we wait until we are ready, that day will never come, but it will come. But for me, what I do is I do my part, do my best. Because if everybody does his part, things will also change. Somebody told me today, there are too many challenges. What can I do? What do you mean? I've overgrown that because only me can make it. Nelson Mandela was one man, isn't it? He made a lot of change. So the truth is, let us all make the changes within our sphere of influence. That is the way out. Unfortunately, we are not seeing some of the people who got trained here. I don't know whether you remember this word because we put it in media, we have some lecturers, we call them sadists. Oh, we use that word also. Sadists. Do you know that some people got trained in the US, in South Africa, in the generation, they take go back home and become sadists? And I wonder when you were complaining about it, that so one of my parents became a professor at the University of England. And I said, I have only one message for you. You saw all the wickedness you went through before you became a professor. Your application was delayed for more than 5 years. I said, so now you're a professor. Please, my friend, don't repeat wickedness. Don't say, me, I went through hell to get here. So everybody talking after you want to go through hell. It doesn't work like that. So I just feel, let everybody do the best. You know, just do the best you can do. And one day, maybe what I do will affect what you do, and spontaneously there will be a move, but one person will take it. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you so much, Rob. And maybe in line with what you just gratitude, maybe we should just think about CONSUJ Appreciation Day to appreciate those who affected us, who impacted us here in South Africa. Thank you so much.
Okay, we want to say a very big thank you to our guest speakers for today, Professor Aigbavboa, who was there earlier, Professor Chioma, Okoro, Professor Arotiba. We are grateful, sir, and we believe that every one of us that has participated in this conference, we are going on with one or two things that we have gained and has transformed our life for good. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for Professor Okoro. So we'll be bringing this conference to a close right now, and in the next 10 minutes, because we are behind schedule, we'll be starting the dinner night. Thank you very much. Sorry, there is a refreshment provided for every one of us outside. Please, you cannot go outside and just take something while we prepare for the dinner. Thank you so much.
We are all employed.